Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and today we are talking about Feixiao. Is she still worth it in version 3.0 Honkai Star Rail? Of course, this is a super expensive patch. I totally understand. You have the Herta and you have 3 excellent units as well in this banner. But for this video, let's focus on Feixiao. I want to talk not only about whether she is still worth it. Some of you already have her at E0, so let's talk about her Eidolons. And for those of you who are thinking of picking up her signature, we'll talk about it in this video as well, and discussing it based on today's context, today's landscape. Let's of course jump in first with the current landscape of things in terms of team compositions. If you are a new player or a player who has her at E0, what does her teams look like right now? It's going to be basically the follow-up team compositions that we are very familiar with. We have Robin over here, and those of you who do not have Robin, because I understand she's a bit expensive, you could probably run with a character, for example, like Esther in this slot as like a slightly cheaper option. For a second DPS, people are running a few options nowadays. You can go with a little bit more premium option, which is Topaz and Nambi. So you can go with Topaz and Nambi here, or maybe a cheaper option will of course be to go for your Mark 7 Hunt. Of course, the other alternative is going to be Mozi. So you have, this is like a cheaper option. And last but not least, in the sustain slot, there are so many options. The premium one is going to be Aventurine, but for those of you who are maybe watching this video and you are slightly newer into the game, you can pretty much get by with a lot of other sustain. You can run, for example, like Gallagher, you can run like Natasha for time being as well. These are all like pretty decent options. If you can have, they can scale into other teams too. This is going to be like probably a budget recommendation. Of course, her premium teams are Aventurine for this slot, Topaz and Nambi, as well as Robin, but that's what her team looks like right now. Let's get the elephant out of the room at this point. Talking about her team competitions and stuff, one of the hardest things I would say is some of you watching this video right now, those of you who have Feixiao and are looking at the Memory of Chaos here, you might find this is a little bit of a tricky situation for her in the Memory of Chaos. And don't use this to like judge the strengths of Feixiao, because honestly, this rotation, second half is not that great for Feixiao. A lot of it is requiring a bit more AoE target, so you're really only playing her in the first half here, which again, her team compositions aren't super excelling in the first half, so you must understand that she might not be super advantageous here. They take turns, right? When you're talking about meta and game state, what Hoyoverse often does is they will rotate some characters into the meta, take some characters out, in and out, some characters outperform and some characters do not. So like last patch, just the preceding Memory of Chaos, Akirion was like kinda meh, and like the one before Akirion was like super meh. But the moment Lightning came back into relevance, the moment you see like a bit more importance of Lightning, Akirion's value immediately went up. And similarly, Feixiao was like very strong in the previous few patches, and then she became like not that great this patch because of the turning tides. That does not mean a character is weak, because if you look at the roster of Win, and here's where the true value of Feixiao comes in, and let's talk a bit about her value compared to a lot of other characters in the game right now. If you are looking for a Win element, right, go into your filter here, and we have all characters in Honkai Star Rail. There are very little things to address Win. You have Blade, who is arguably not super meta right now. You have Black Swan, who doesn't really address Win excellently as well. And probably your closest alternative to targeting Win is going to be Sampo Koski, who is also not the S tier, maybe 5-star DPS that we are looking for, which means your only best option right now is truly Feixiao in terms of the Win category. If you want to ignore Win totally, don't even cover it at all, then you might be in a bit of a trouble, especially when the meta switches into Win. You're going to struggle a little bit in that aspect. But of course, we will touch on the channel like different teams and investment value and stuff like that, so you guys can build solid accounts. Even if you are feeling like you will need to skip some characters, that's what we do on this channel as well. So don't ever feel too pressurized about pulling. I personally have my Feixiao at E0S0, and she has worked really fine. It's just that sometimes you come in and out of meta. So now that we talk about her value, why she doesn't feel super strong just currently, let's talk about long term. I think she's still a solid character to play. She is pretty much the pinnacle of the follow-up team compositions. If you like to play follow-up team compositions, she finishes it off very nicely. And moving forward, any follow-up teams, she plays very well into. Solid hunt character. The question is, now that you already have, for example, E0S0, you know her value, she's going to be one of the 4 horsemen, can you say, to target especially Win element, and she excels there. The question is, do you need her signature, and do you need her additional Eidolons? Let's start things first, step by step, shall we? Let's go into the easier one out of the two to talk about, which is going to be light cones. The biggest thing about Feixiao's light cones that I want to mention is that cruising in the Stellar Sea exists. This gives you a ton of stats that Feixiao wants, like crit rate, which is a massive amount, and you kill an enemy, you get a lot of attack buff. You of course have the S5 because this is a total free thing. And this is fantastic because hunt characters generally will be able to burst down most squishies in one shot. You get that massive damage buffs. She can keep attacking as well. This is very, very solid. I can't believe this is free, to be honest. And she can use a lot of other options as well in the game. For example, in the night, I find super effective on her as well. Really, really good. And other limiteds she can easily use. Her signature, we did actually a comparison video in the past, E0 all the way to like E6 comparison. So if you are curious about the actual numbers, you can check that video out on the channel. But let me just give you a long story short. This is probably about approximately 20% increase for base of the cruising in the Stellar Sea. Is it worth 20% increase? I'll leave the judgment up to you. But to me personally, I like her at E0, S0 already. I find it really, really great value. At the same time, personally on my account, I have Zealer's signature light cone, so I can switch it around. But if you do not have Zealer's light cone, you don't have any other light cone, for example, Dr. Ratio's signature, if you have this light cone, probably these are like good alternatives as well. You can consider using them. But this is still overall a really good light cone if you don't have other limited options. But it is around a 20% increase, giving you a great amount of crit rate buffing, equivalent to the cruising in the Stellar Sea. Definitely a lot more base stats as well. One of the highest base attacks in the game, or tied for the highest with Herta's signature, if I'm not wrong. And when the wearer launches like follow attacks, you gain stacks, allowing you to ignore defense on the enemy, which deals a lot of damage on the enemy. So very, very solid, especially to like delete bosses in the game. So this is really very, very strong. Moving on to Eidolons, which is I think what a lot of you might also be thinking of in this video. Overall, E0, some people will ask E1 or S1 first, and I want to touch on that as well in this video. Both of them are great additions. I think that the best value for Feixiao is E0, S0 personally. But if you want to go for her E1, S1, also very solid. Between E1 and S1, I do like S1 a little bit more compared to E1, especially if you don't have the other options right now in the game state currently. Because look at this, what does this do? It increases the out damage 10% origin amount, stacking up to 5 times. This one is like very specific of her, whereas if you have like a limited signature, you can move it around if you wanted to. You have a bit more flexibility, and the damage numbers that we see, E1 is slightly less than S1. So if you're looking purely from a damage perspective, you get a lot more value going for her signature first. But the reason why you want to go for Eidolon 1 is because you want to go for Eidolon 2. And E2 S0, especially if you have Zealer signature or Dr. Ratio signature, is very, very good value. This one allows you to have, for every one instance of follow-up attacks launched by ally target, Feixiao gains more stacks, triggering up to 6 times per turn. This is very fantastic. It helps her hit her stacks very, very quickly to do even more damage. As we see now, after the game has gone on for a while, she's mainly being played in premium follow-up teams, and this accelerates that process a lot. It is crazy amounts of damage, especially if you're playing her in a follow-up attacking team. This is really, really very strong. So E2S0 is possible, especially if you have like Zealer signature, Dr. Ratio signature, and it's definitely quite worth it. Is it on the same level as, for example, Akirion's E2 in terms of level difference? The answer is no. Akirion's E2 really does change the way she's played significantly, whereas Feixiao, I always like to use the analogy that E2 is like an inverse Akirion. So at E0 or E1, you would want to play her in any team that you can run her in, whereas in E2, you are mainly putting her specifically in follow-up attacking teams because that's where you get a lot of damage from her, and that is my honest thoughts. Overall, let's sum up, shall we? I think that the true value of this character lies in her excellence in win teams, very, very strong, very little other access elsewhere. In the game state now, sometimes she rotates in and out of meta, but long story short, you will always need a win DPS, and if you don't have any other hunt character that is really strong, she fills that role very, very well. The only unfortunate thing, of course, is coming at a time where you have so many good characters to pull. You have the Herta, you have Lingsha, you have Jade, so many strong units as well. Second half, you have Aglia. It's a really expensive patch, I totally understand, and I hope you found this video quite helpful as well. If you do like this kind of content, like, comment, and subscribe, and check out these 2 other videos on the channel, which I think you might like as well, and enjoy 3.0. See you guys soon. Bye bye now.